Evening all. Yeah, I'm moving around my house, changing the locale. I'm in youngest son's room here with all his clutter. Um, so let's crack on with my take on what's been going on this week. My theme this week is really that even though we keep winning all the votes, we actually control nothing. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to kick off with something that happened in television a week ago, which was the finale of this season 12's Doctor Who, where it turns out the big reveal is, and I don't care about spoilers at this point, but the big reveal is that the Doctor isn't really a Gallifreyan Time Lord, as we've all supposed over decades, but that he, she, them, they are a timeless child, some kind of mysterious person that was discovered and had the regenerative properties, and that the Gallifreyans, the Time Lords, took the secrets of regeneration from this timeless child, and that the first incarnation of the Doctor was actually a little black girl, and that who we've always thought is the first Doctor for 50 years, William Hartnell, isn't really the first Doctor. He is merely just another one in a long line, and the reason why this hasn't been mentioned before is that the Doctor had his mind wiped when he was William Hartnell, and has subsequently forgotten, and it needs Jodie Whittaker's Time Lord to realise this, to be given the truth of who the Doctor is. It's an appalling episode on a number of levels, particularly if you're a Doctor Who fan. But this one central point, the one central premise of the episode, exemplifies what's going wrong. You see, the thing is that that whole development, that big reveal, was done not because it's an interesting or it's a good idea. It's done for the political reasons, which is that Doctor Who has been seen as a white male for over 50 years. And that somehow needs to be deconstructed. That somehow needs to be lessened. And the legacy of the show needs diminishing, because Jodie Whittaker needs to be seen as the stunning and brave new face of Doctor Who, the template of what is to come. And so what we had earlier on in the season was we had a mysterious incarnation of the Doctor just suddenly shows up. We've not seen this version of the Doctor before, and it turns out it's a black woman. And now we have this backstory that the Doctor has always existed throughout time. We're probably on the 6,000th Doctor. And the whole thing is that those first 12 incarnations, the white male incarnations of the Doctor, they're nothing special at all. They're just yet more Doctors. So that kind of specialness to the Doctor has just gone. And as I said, this is all being done to make it that the character of the Doctor is not special. Anybody can be the Doctor. You know, in the words of Syndrome from The Incredibles, now once everybody's special, no one is. And this is what they've done. But the BBC have doubled down, and they've defended it, and they're not taking on board any criticism. And that's just the BBC for you. This is, again, there's more than ever before support for ending the licence fee and making the BBC go to a subscription service. The ratings have plummeted. People are voting with their feet, with their wallets. They don't want the BBC anymore. It is not a beloved institution as it once has. We are sending out that message. People right across the United Kingdom are sending out that message. But it doesn't matter, because those of us on the centre and the right, all the normies, we don't matter, because we don't control the BBC. The BBC are controlled by essentially an ideological left-leaning cabal, right? Where they just don't care about making things that reflect the views and reflect the tastes of the public as a whole, and they are just locked in an ideology because they control it, and they control it. They do whatever the damn well they please because they control it. We, on the other hand, the voters, the normies, those on the right, those on the centre, we don't control anything, so we can't be agents of change. And so that's an example of something where we are voting with our feet. Doctor Who has achieved the lowest ratings in the show's history this season. Season 12 has been an abject failure. The previous season, season 11, was a failure, but it's just got worse. But it doesn't matter. The show will keep going because we have no power to influence it. The controversy over Priti Patel's alleged bullying just continues. Again, the media reporting almost daily accusations that she's bullied staff, but it's all very unsubstantiated. And a lot of her colleagues are coming to her defence. The Prime Minister has stood by her, had her sit next to him at Prime Minister's questions. And so it just seems like she is going into the Home Office, and when it comes to grooming gangs and when it comes to a few other things, she wants to shake things up. She wants to know why things haven't been acted on. She's clashing up with these Jobsworth civil servants, and there is personality clashes going on there, and one or two of them are running off and saying, we're being bullied, and the press are running these stories. But here we have an example of how we have a Conservative minister who is quite popular among the public because they are tough talking, they take no nonsense in their work. And yet the media just are out to get her. And you have what was a disgusting cartoon in The Guardian this week, which depicted Boris Johnson as a bull, and Priti Patel sitting next to him as likewise with a bull with a ring through her nose and horns. Now, this is bad on a number of levels because she being of Hindu background, the cow is sacred, so she's being depicted not just as a cow but as a bull. That's misgendering. I thought we weren't supposed to do that. I thought that was a big thing on the left. The left would have been telling us, oh, you can't, that's a hate crime if you misgender somebody. And yet Steve Bell, a man who has been accused of misogyny in his cartoon works over the years, he has done this thing. He's done the thing which can be construed as racist, can be construed as sexist, can be accused of misgendering, and all the things that normally we don't like. But if we've had these rules imposed on us by the left, then it's right that we on the right should demand that the left stick to their own rules. Hey, they created this situation. They created these rules. Okay, and now they violate them. You see, if we can't do that, we cannot depict any woman on the left negatively. I mean, take Ash Sarkar, for example. Right. Every time people criticize Ash Sarkar, we get accused of being racist and sexist and misogynistic and bigoted and all that, because we criticize Ash Sarkar primarily on her ideas. I know some people go after her on their looks, but I'm not talking about that. She is a communist, and that is dangerous. That is a dangerous, murderous, tyrannical ideology. And we go after her for that. And we go after her for her hypocrisy and her race baiting, which she has done this week. I'll get onto that in a minute. But we can't, the left say, you can't do that, otherwise you're misogynist. And then milquetoast radio, BBC radio presenters like Jeremy Vine said, oh, Ash Sarkar's a friend of mine, you shouldn't have a go at her. And yet Steve Bell, when he does a disgusting cartoon about Priti Patel, oh, now that's different. That's different. He's punching up, isn't he? That's completely different. So it's the hypocrisy that gets to us. Now, The Guardian has, again, a falling readership. They're constantly handing out a begging bowl. Hardly anybody reads The Guardian, and yet, they wield a disproportionate influence in British politics and society. We win the votes, they've still got the power. You know, if television companies and radio companies would go, let's have a look at the papers, they would be within their rights to push The Guardian to one side and not look at it. Okay, not look at The Guardian at all. Nobody should take The Guardian seriously. It's got a pathetic circulation, and yet it's pushed in our faces. We win the votes, we control nothing. Now, speaking of Ash Sarkar, this week she made some comments about demographics. So what she said in online in a video was that she was pointing out the declining numbers of white people in London and the increase in BAME and mixed race couples in London. And she was saying, we're winning. Now, that was construed as racist. Winning what? You know, what is this thing that you're supposed to be winning? You know, the eradication of whites from London, from the UK? What is this? And it was put to her. And other people have found clips of her being racist towards white people and expressing wishes that white people are such an evil, they need to be purged and pushed out of their own country. And when confronted with this, she said, oh, it's just a joke. You guys don't get the joke. You guys are so serious, you gammon. Racist comment as well. You don't get the joke. Oh, yeah. But you see, when we try and say, when we on the right try and say, and classical liberals say, but that was a joke, we get punished. Academic Agent's original Twitter account was punished because he made a joke referencing a quote from Silence of the Lambs. Count Dankula was tried in court, in a Scottish court, for a joke. Oh, we're not allowed to play the joke card, but Sarkar is. Okay, and all her pathetic ashbots that circle around her, the simps, just they play this card, this hypocrisy card. She's allowed to make these jokes, but everybody else is. And Ash Sarkar is protected. She's on our television screens weekly now. Jeremy Vine is white knighting for her. She is just she is taking the license fee payers' money. Right? We don't want her. We didn't ask for her. Okay, and Academic Agent on his channel has done a very good video about Ash Sarkar and racism, and he implores people to write letters of complaint to the BBC about her continued presence on the BBC. I've done my bit. Please do your bit. The more of us complain to the BBC, the more chance, I'm not saying it will happen, she will get sort of booted off the BBC. She will no longer be invited to espouse communism and her race baiting on our television screens. But we have a chance. If we do nothing, we have no chance. But if we do something, we have a chance. But again, she's on our BBC screens spouting this nonsense, and then doubling down and making things worse on her Novara Media website and also her Twitter account. And she gets absolutely protected status, right? And she knows it. She acts like someone who is untouchable, who basically you cannot get to, you cannot push back on. She has a force field around her, and that force field exists because of TV companies and of social media companies giving her that force field. And again, this is a case that nobody wants Ash Sarkar on our TV screens, and nobody asked for her to be on our TV screens, and yet there she is. She is right across our media, and she's got a protected social media presence. No matter how many times people complain, we control nothing. The only thing I can suggest is writing to the BBC, because they still have the veneer of a complaints procedure. And the more people who complain, the BBC have to publish these statistics. Once a month, they have to publish statistics about the complaints that they're getting. And hopefully somewhere, somehow, somebody picks up on that in the media and runs with it, or questions start being asked at higher levels of why she is on our screens. But that's why I keep saying you have to get these letters of complaint in, because the BBC is one organisation, unlike Twitter, unlike Facebook or YouTube. They can just put up a barrier and say your complaints are irrelevant. The BBC actually has to. It's built into their structure that they have to log all these complaints and then publish them. So yesterday was International Women's Day, or in the parlance of some, Womuxen's Day. Even the United Nations got onto that bandwagon, calling it Womuxen's Day. And a big tweet with Wumuksen in different languages. Yeah, how's the trans community doing in 80% of the world's nations? How are women doing in 80% of the world's nations? United Nations is actually now become a bunch of some of the most barbaric and repressive countries in the world, telling the developed world to check their pronouns. It's essentially come down to that. It makes you feel wistful for the League of Nations. But not to be outdone, the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, says he wants misogyny to become a hate crime. And he's pushing forward on that, claiming he has the backing of some legal quango, which he doesn't, by the way. He's kind of made that up. But we're going to get misogyny as a hate crime. Oh, yeah. So what kind of misogyny is that? Can he define it? Well, as a lot of people pushed back on his tweet yesterday, they'll say, well, what about Islam, eh? All those mosques with segregated areas, the burqa, the veils, there are communities in ethnically diverse London that treat women as substandard citizens. I mean, remember, still under Sharia law, a woman's testimony is worth less than a man's. But that's different. That's cultural. No. Going, hello, darling, and that's going to be prosecuted. That's going to be a hate crime. But actual misogyny, actual violence against women, actual keeping women down as second-class citizens. No, that's going to get a free pass if you're of the right religious or cultural background. It's just rank hypocrisy. Again, everything the left does is just rank hypocrisy, and they defend it through kind of mealy-mouthed backpedaling when you pressure them. But Sadiq Khan is still Mayor of London, and he's on course to get re-elected. And even if he is toppled, he's most likely going to be, well, people say it may be Rory Stewart, the cuck's cuck, is going to possibly win. And, we control nothing. We control nothing at this stage. There is a huge backlash amongst the public against virtue signaling, against woke culture, against the policies of the progressive left, and yet nothing changes because we don't actually control anything. And that's kind of depressing. Somebody last night, Mr. Spoon, said, this is my black pill moment. Well, perhaps it is. All I can say, to give people hope is that the world outside is just still going on. You still have your neighbours, your communities, your friends, your family. You can cut out all media, you can cut out social media, and your life will be better for it. Have a kickabout in a park with your kids, just that still exists for now. Just normie life goes on. But it would be nice. It would be nice if we had some part of the media, some part of the civil service, some part of academia that was right wing and just wasn't afraid to say it, and just could get on without being put under siege by a bunch of lying hypocrites. Until then, have a good week. There's a real world out there to enjoy. So until next time, bye.